Just when he dropped. Did you ever see the pipe bomb video?
1989. We've seen
Have you ever seen his pipe bomb video?
I don't think so. At the biggest event
so basically, he nicknamed the microphone a pipe bomb because he drops bombs on it. You know, just the thing that he says. So he comes out, and people to this day don't know if this was scripted or if this was. He definitely was supposed to have like a promo, but people think he went completely off script with it. So he comes out with the microphone, and he's in the old school black Stone Cold Steve Austin T-shirt.
Yeah.
And John Cena is wrestling the guy that calls himself the Worm. I can't think of the black guy's name, but John Cena's wrestling him, and he just comes out and he sits Indian style at the top of the ramp, and he goes, "Could you guys cut for a second? Because I gotta say something." And he starts talking about how John Cena gets all this in merchandise. He goes, and we can't even get the WWE to bring back the wrestling bars, ice cream bars. He goes, "I want ice cream bars." And it was funny. So he goes, "Well, you know why this company's the way it is, and Vince McMahon's the way it is? Because it's all you idiots in the stands that just buy this shit up."
I can tell you, folks, the big boss man will settle for nothing less than a win here tonight.
Turned out over and over again. Shit.
Cut out for him, Michael.
He's like, "Let me tell you something about Vince McMahon. He surrounds himself with glad-handling yes
you
men
wouldn't know this
who
was a
do all his
non-title
bidding
match just by
and
looking
can't
at the
stand
champ.
up to him."
Yeah,
Because then he's got his idiot daughter and his doofus son-in-law, Triple H,
on the line.
you have to respect that about him. And his dumb, chaotic son. He goes, no wonder this company's falling apart. And then all of a sudden his mic cuts out. And he's like hitting the mic, and he's like, and that kicked it off. That's what trajected CM Punk into being so famous. Was that one pipe bomb where he just goes, and he ended it when they cut him off. He said, maybe this company won't get any better until Vince McMahon dies. And that's when he says, then we'll have to deal with his idiot daughter and future son. And he goes, yeah. But that was the best promo. One of the best promos. That's right up there. That's probably as famous and as iconic as Austin 316 that I just ripped your ass. Did you ever see that one?
No.
So he beats, so Jake the Snake Roberts' whole gimmick at the time was he was a born-again Christian. And so in his promos he would preach and say this stuff, and that was his gimmick. And Steve Austin just became Stone Cold. Like, he was the ringmaster, and he would come out with the $1 Million Man.
That's nice.
Think about how many superstars have been
so they dropped Ted DiBiase from the gimmick. They changed his name from the ringmaster to Stone Cold, and and the reason why Steve Austin saw the serial killer documentary about the Iceman, and so he wanted that kind of image. So he had the writing team come up with a bunch of names, and they sent him like Ivan von Frost and all these like stupid names. And so he was like pissed. He's like, these guys don't know what they're doing. And his wife at the time was English, and she goes, "Well, I'll make you a cup of tea. We'll calm you down." And then he goes, "I was still talking about my wife told me to drink your tea before it gets Stone Cold." And Steve Austin goes, "That was it, Stone Cold." And they turned it into the theme, and they went with it. And then at King of the Ring.
Saul Goodman.
So at King of the Ring, he faced Jake the Snake Roberts in the finals and beat him. So normally the King of the Ring puts on the robe and the crown and they carry the scepter and all that shit, but he's Stone Cold. He don't get none of that shit. He just goes up there, and Michael P.S. Hayes is interviewing him. He's standing, and Stone Cold's standing next to the throne, and he goes, "Look at you, Jake Roberts." He goes, "Look at you." He goes, "You're nothing now." He goes, "You come out here and you preach about your Psalms. You preach about all this and your Bible thumping. You preach about your John 3:16. Well, Austin 3:16 says, I just whooped your ass." And then that was it. That's where that took off, and then they started making Austin 3:16 t-shirts. And that's where the promo was cut. Because Jake the Snake Roberts was a Bible thumper in his
sometimes less is more.
Christian,
but try telling that to Eddie Guerrero.
I vaguely remember that part of his career, but not much.
It was at the tail end. He retired.
Yeah,
I think that was one of his last matches.
Yes.
When it comes to
That was
matches like this,
because that was 19. Think about that. That was 1995, 96.
They have a victory.
So I mean, that was
All the way over.
and that was still after that was Jacob St. Roberts' tail end. I mean,
Yeah.
Big Boss Man looking
that's
to
the
establish
equivalent
himself
of like
as the one in charge right here.
that's the equivalent
Corey, he
of
unloaded there.
Ric Flair and the Shawn Michaels storyline where he retires
Eddie
Ric Flair.
Guerrero turns it around.
Now that's an emotional match. Have you never seen that
Shows
match?
no mercy in that poor chair.
So-
It looks like a twisted heap.
So, Ric Flair comes out and he says, you know how Ric Flair is always crying when he gets emotional. And he's legit crying.
Look
And
past
he's
the ring
like,
at the
I
thousands
hate
and
to tell everyone, all my fans,
thousands
because
WWE fans in
with the
attendance.
styling and
Each and
profiling's over.
every one of them are being
Because,
entertained tonight. Looks like
because
Big
the
Boss
styling
Man
and
starting to
profiling's
win
over.
here.
It's time for the
nothing he hasn't
man.
been through before.
And he just goes, but I don't want to go out
I'd be careful of playing too much to the crowd
without
here.
one last match at WrestleMania, and he points to the big WrestleMania sign hanging in the arena. Because you know how they always hang it? They always hang it right at Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
And it stays hanging at every arena they go to until WrestleMania. And so it's hanging. And Ric Flair points and he goes, there's only one man that's worthy enough to go against me in a WrestleMania match.
You look for victory.
And that one man is
superstar
the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels. And
I could see that.
so then Shawn Michaels comes out. Shawn Michaels comes out, and he doesn't want to do it. He's like, because I can't do it. He goes, and Ric Flair goes, you're not man nothing. He starts getting pissed, and he goes, you think I'm washed up? You don't want to hurt me? He goes, you think you can hurt me? You ain't gonna hurt me. And he slaps Shawn Michaels in the face.
Great matchup.
And Shawn Michaels just looks at him and goes, if this is what you want, because then the Heartbreak Kid's gonna have to take old Yeller out to the woodshed, put him down. And he puts the gun up to his head and does that. And he drops the mic and he walks away. So they do the match, right? And Shawn Michaels is back and forth, and Shawn Michaels is on. He starts to dominate. I mean, he's really like fucking Ric Flair up. And it could have gone south, because like normally that's how you bury a wrestler. Like, you don't want to make a wrestler look too bad. And then right at the end, so Ric Flair gets knocked into the turnbuckle, and he's all woozy and he's laying there. And he turns around, he's facing the turnbuckle, and he's getting up. And Shawn Michaels is at the other turnbuckle, and he starts tuning up the band. And, and as he's tuning up the band, you know how before he did Sweet Chin music, he would always grab the ropes and stomp his foot. Shawn Michaels literally legit starts crying. And Ric Flair turns around and sees him, and it's so perfect. And he sees that he's lined up for the Sweet Chin music. And Ric Flair puts those hands up.
Yeah.
And he's shaking his head.
Yeah.
And Shawn Michaels literally looks at him with tears in his face and chokes out. And you see his lips move. He goes, I'm sorry. And he just fucking Sweet Chin music to his face. 1, 2, 3, match is over. And it was so, even though it's scripted and staged and choreographed, it was so emotional the way he looked at Ric Flair and Ric Flair looked at him, and Shawn Michaels just goes, I'm sorry.
They actually put some time into that.
You see his lips move, I'm sorry, and boom, and nails it. And I was just like, wow. What a way for Ric Flair to lose, even though Ric Flair lost. Like, that's what wrestling is all about. It's not about who wins or loses. It's about putting on a show. Like, that right there puts even though Ric Flair is already over with the crowd, that puts him 100,000 and Shawn Michaels even more as the greatest wrestler in WrestleMania history. He is the show. Like, he's always been called Mr. WrestleMania. And then when he did his matches with The Undertaker, I mean, it was Triple H faced The Undertaker, Shawn Michaels faced him twice. He had both of them were retirement matches. But the first one was just the Mr. WrestleMania versus The Streak. And The Undertaker beat him. And that's the famous one where Shawn Michaels is wearing all white and he comes up on the elevator and then he takes his zip line. He zip lines down to the ring. And then the next year, he faced Undertaker in a rematch, and that was his retirement match. And so the Undertaker retired him. So then the next year, Undertaker faced Triple H, and then he faced Triple H in a rematch.
Warrior, that's pretty soon.
And then Undertaker faced Triple H the next year, the second time in a row, and it was Triple H and him, and Shawn Michaels was a special guest referee.
Yeah.
And at the end of that match, they broke kayfabe, and they were so beat up from the match, like legit exhausted and beat up, the three of them hooked arms and walked out of the ring and up the ramp together, and then turned and raised their hands, even though they just fought as enemies. Like it's powerful. Because that was Shawn Michaels' last. That was not Shawn Michaels' last match, but I think they knew it was the last time the three of them would be together at WrestleMania. Shawn Michaels is the special referee, even though he was already retired. And then Triple H versus the Undertaker, and then they just lock arms after beating the holy hell out of each other, literally beating each other, not beating the holy hell out of each other, but like working each other over.
Yeah. I'm watching a hell of a fight right now. My first fight's Eddie Guerrero and the Big Boss Man Extreme Rules match. Damn, this is fun.
How much fun is Eddie having?
The Big Boss Man's character, it wasn't lavish, but he just played it well.
I like his not the police uniform Big Boss Man, which was okay for me as a little kid.
Yeah.
Or as like a young, like a 10-year-old. But when he transitioned. Because what happened was he did the Big Boss Man and he did the cop uniform and it was all comical, like a comic book character or cartoonish. And then he left and went to WCW.
Yeah.
And then he came back during the Attitude Era to WWE and he became part of McMahon's stable, where it was the Authority and he was like he was basically he was one of their henchmen, like he was like a bodyguard henchman. Yeah, like exactly. He was in a force, but he wore the all-black SWAT uniform.
I saw that. Looked pretty cool. I remember that. I remember seeing that.
That was when Bossman was. That was when Bossman was really like that. That was probably the highlight of his career. Even though he's more famous for the cop uniform,
yeah,
he did his best work or had his best stories through that storyline with the Authority.
I'm gonna put that on my list right now. I got a list of shit to do on this man as far as outfits. Black outfit.
They might have it. They might have it.
Oh man, I'll check it out.
If Bossman's a wrestler in the game, they definitely have it.
Yeah.
Because it was like him. So they had so McMahon's stable was him, Shane, and then he had then it was the Minions Authority where the Undertaker came in, and it had Undertaker, Farouk, and Bradshaw, which were Ron Simmons and Bradshaw Layfield. They had the APA. They were asset protection agency.
Well, Ron Simmons lasted for a long time then, because he was around for a long time. I mean,
yeah, you never seen him when he was part of APA. There was a tag team with him and Farouk.
Vaguely, man.
He was Farouk, and then was Bradshaw.
In all honesty, once WCW and WWE converted, I didn't really stop watching, but I didn't pay attention as much.
Well, this is way before that.
Oh, okay.
This is when the Rock first came in like '96. They gave him a stable, which was called the Nation of Domination, and that was where they created the Farouk character for Ron Simmons. He came out wearing one of those black-looking bellboy hats that black people wear. But you know how a bellboy hat is like, you know how what bellboys wear, the little red hat? You ever seen those? Like a bellhop at a hotel would wear like those red hats. Well, Farouk would wear like you never seen the black people wear the black one where it like encompasses their whole head at the top, but it looks like that bellboy cap that's all leather. And then it had Sheldon Brown, who would always wiggle his head when he talked, like he was like rolling into a spasm. And then it had the guy who played the Godfather, but he went by a different name. I don't know if you remember the Godfather. If you say then you don't remember. The Godfather's gimmick was he was a pimp, and he would come out dressed as a pimp with a cane, and his theme music was "Here comes the train," and he'd bring out all the prostitutes with him as he went down to the ring. That was the Godfather. And then they had another, like, if you want to go obscure characters from the Attitude Era that weren't like real. They weren't like they were never main event. They were like middle to low card. Or like Val Venus. Val Venus was the perfect gimmick when it comes to like a low card or a mid carder who never made it to the main event, but he was still a good journeyman wrestler. Like that Val Venus character. You remember that character? Val Venus?
Yeah.
Because he's the porn star that come out with a towel. Hello, ladies. And he'd take the towel off and do his trunks. Well, they did a storyline where he was wrestling this Japanese wrestler. And the storyline was this Japanese wrestler was from overseas. And the Asian culture, like, they blur out penises in their porn.
Yeah, okay.
And so, like, that sounds so, it's fucking queers. They don't like to look at dicks. They're a bunch of fags. That was perfect. And they don't like to look, they blur out dicks in their porn. Yeah, they're gay. That was perfect. That wasn't even scripted. That was just a knee-jerk, yeah, they're gay. That's the perfect definition of gay not meaning gay.
Right.
It's really good. They blur out the dicks during their porn. They're gay. So, in the storyline, this Japanese wrestler was supposed to face Val Venus, and Val Venus refused to wrestle him. So his stable, he had like this Japanese guy that looked like he looked like, remember in Austin Powers, Random Task that would throw his hat?
The shoulders are down for 3.
I believe so.
And this one's in the
remember you never seen Austin Powers?
One competitor's refusal to lose.
Where it was a parody of the James Bond character that would throw his hat.
Yeah.
Remember the guy would throw his hat? In Austin Powers, he'd throw his shoe. Who throws a shoe, man? Seriously, a shoe? And so that guy's manager looked like that guy. And so he has another two random Japanese henchmen with him that are like dressed like triads. And so they kidnapped Val Venus, and they got him tied up in the locker room. And you see the camera is like behind them, like spying on them almost. And Val Venus is tied up with his arms out, like standing. And they're gonna draw and quarter him. You know how they he's got his arms tied up to the ceiling, and he's stretched out, standing up. And there's a
The following contest is a fatal four-way tag team match. Introducing first, Nikki Cross and Paige. Absolution!
Guys, this match is sure to not disappoint, especially considering who's involved here tonight.
You're absolutely right, Michael. This match will be one we'll be talking about for a long time to come.
Jack.
Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Do you remember Al Snow?
The name sounds familiar.
He would come out with a mannequin and he wrote head, H-E-A-D across the forehead in Sharpie. And he carried just a mannequin head.
Right. Very vaguely, brother.
And his intro was, "What does everybody want? What does everybody need?"
Great.
And then the crowd would cheer, "Head!"
Nice.
And he'd come running out with the mannequin.
That.
Well, they did a gimmick with him where one of the female wrestlers was having a baby. She was pregnant, and she was having Kane's baby. And
Nice.
Al Snow had a gimmick. He had a storyline against Kane, and Kane supposedly got this girl pregnant. And so she has the baby at the ring, and Al Snow steals the baby and drop kicks it into the crowd. Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, the Attitude Era was the best era of wrestling.
Kick the baby.
He just grabs it, he runs over to the edge of the ring apron, and he punts it into the crowd. Obviously, it was a doll, but it was like so hilarious. Oh, did I ever tell you? We did this party, right? You know, at Primo, we did this catered party, and it was a gender reveal party. you've seen like a gender reveal party like on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Where like they'll do like a balloon and they'll let the balloon go and it pops and it either pops blue or pink to let you know that you're having a boy or girl, right?
To be broken, Michael. Though in this case, I think we're safe.
Yeah.
And so, or sometimes it'll be like a box and they'll open it up and then like blue glitter will burst out or pink glitter, let you know if you're having a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
Well, these people did a catered party at Primo and they went outside and the dude had a football. And he punts the football in the air, and it explodes. Or I think he kicked a soccer ball, because that was more gender neutral. I think it was a soccer ball. So he kicks the soccer ball, and it explodes. I can't remember if it was blue or pink, to let them know, hey, you're having a boy or a girl.
Yeah.
So everyone's watching this from the window in the doorway. And I go, he should have just kicked the baby.
Kick the baby.
And everyone just looks at me and they're like, what? I go, why a ball? Like, it doesn't mean, like, if he would have kicked like a baby doll and it exploded blue or pink, that would have been more, and people looked at me like I was fucking sick and twisted. The only person, and even though I really didn't like the kid at all, the only person that agreed with me was Robert.
Robert. Oh, buddy Robert.
Making their way to
But I was like, yeah, instead of a ball, he should have kicked a baby. And I think maybe I thought I meant a real baby, which is just absurd. Like, no, I mean like a baby doll, like a Cabbage Patch doll. You kick it, it explodes blue. How is that any more weird than kicking a ball in the air?
I tell you what, it's a good thing. There's like an invention. You can like see people's thoughts. I'd be in prison.
Oh my god.
It's great.
Take your Ubers. Take your Ubers. There's that one black guy that went viral on TikTok where he's just some ghetto black guy walking around in the neighborhood.
That's what I mean, dude. You could be on fucking. You could be like rich right now, just doing nothing.
Here's the thing. He's like he's just out. You know how it's in the neighborhood, everyone's like chilling outside talking to each other. And here comes this old 60-year-old OG who's missing teeth and shit. But he's wearing like the designer Jordan shirt and he's like wearing like, you know what I mean, like he's got the Timberlands on, but he's like an old 60-year-old and it looks like he's all cracked out and skinny. He's got a gray beard and he's missing teeth. And he's walks out and he goes, hey, it's Papa Daniel here. And for all you ladies out there, he goes, and he starts saying, I'll eat that. And he does this thing where he goes, like that, and then basically that went viral. The ladies.
That's what I want, bro. I mean, anything that's going to get someone's attention, it's going to be watched. So, I mean,
it looks like we're ready to
get the
do
attention
here, guys.
Gotta do some Andy Warhol shit.
Nikki Cross,
something.
Maniac turned WWE
Whatever
superstar.
we do, we got to involve some fucking naked sluts.
What I will tell you is that she's a skilled veteran who can get the job done.
You just gotta create a persona.
Mutually exclusive, Saxton. Nikki's got the in-ring talent, but she's also potentially rabid.
Each other.
Good luck to anyone that faces her.
I'm pretty sure the tag team is doing some shit, bro.
What a forearm.
They're leaving
Not
now.
looking good right now.
That's true.
That's what I'm saying.
Uh-oh, submission move. And she
Yeah,
lets
but
it go.
it's kind of too late now, baby.
Have it locked in well enough.
Didn't homegirl fucking throw a fastball at you one night? You told me about?
Yes, she threw something from her car. It was like a coin
It's
or...
that softball skill, baby.
Oh, man.
I guess she's pretty good.
I guess.
Straight forearm.
I don't know. That one had issues. You can tell that one had mental issues.
She was fucking crazy, dude.
I could tell there was something wrong.
I had to call out of work because I had a chipped tooth. I had to go to the dentist, get a fucking, get a whole stud put in. They put a temporary in, and then I went back a week later and they put in the permanent.
Suplex. Very nice.
The vibe I got off of her was really confusing, and it's not supposed to be that confusing. She was
face
confusing.
first.
So,
What a kick.
red flag. Red
That was
flag.
a hot ass, though.
Now then, little Abby.
Oh, that hurt.
She's even crazier
Kick in the spot.
But you know
because
what, though?
she's that low key crazy.
One-handed.
She's that low key. You don't know where she's coming from at all.
Neither one of them are willing to give
You
an
know
inch
what? If she
here.
wants to fucking pop up right now magically right here, boy, love the blessed little ass right now.
She was the type of 16-year-old that would seduce you, fuck you, and then say that you were.
Yeah, I can see that.
Back in the ring now.
I can see that. Dangerous.
And not even the older guys, probably guys her age too. I had a girl do that to my boy, one of my best friends growing up, who passed away right after high school.
Yeah.
Ashley Ashley was a cool motherfucker, dude. He fucked so many girls in high school. I remember when we were at his funeral and people were lined up. And there was so many people there, like, I couldn't believe it, like, at the viewing.
Yeah.
I said to him, I made the joke to my boy Jason, because we were the pallbearers. It was me, Jason, my friend Vinny, Ashley's brother, his uncle, and our friend Mark. We were the pallbearers.
God damn, really?
I remember saying to Jason, yo, every girl that actually ever fucked shows up for the viewing, we're going to be here for 3 days. And so, I remember what he did was this girl Brooke, he hooked up with Bono. She's actually, you can see her, she did one of those MTV True Life. It was MTV True Life, I'm a military wife.
Ah, okay.
Because like 2 years, it was like 2 years out of high school this aired. And she had married, Jason Gabbard. And Jason Gabbard was in the army, and the whole True Life, MTV True Life was about military wives. And she was one of them that was featured on this whole episode. So she does have her 15 minutes of fame. But in high school, she accused Ashley of raping her at a party.
That's fucking crazy.
And Brooke's 3 brothers jumped him and beat the shit out of him for it. And then she eventually dropped it. She said it never happened.
See?
Like, when the lawyers got involved in everything, she finally admitted that it wasn't rape, that it was consensual. And so, I remember we got a bunch of baseball bats and shit together, and we went and found her brothers, and we beat the fucking holy fuck out of them.
Damn right. And also, me personally, I go find about 4 or 5 of the baddest bitches I know and get that girl fucked up. Bad. Real
See,
bad.
my theory is you rape 2 girls at the same time. So they cancel each other out, and then they can't go to the top.
Yeah, true.
Because then they're like, well, look, we were both fucked by him at the same time.
Yeah. A buddy of mine did that, what I just said. Same scenario almost, and we're sitting there in the car. I didn't think it was going to happen. And then next thing, these 5, 6 big bitches come out. And his ex-girlfriend was across the street. Man, they whipped that shit out this girl. It was fun to watch.
Well, I tell you this one time, dude, me and my friend Jason, we were like, I think we were 17, and we were at this one girl's party. Man, her fucking 10-year-old sister came out. Fucking, we fucked the shit out of that girl.
This is a big risk. Will it pay off? All the way from the top.
Just fucking, imagine this fucking wrestling match.
Did you hear what I said?
Dude, this is crazy. Huh?
You hear what I said?
I gotta cut this quick. Hold on. Say it one more time.
So me and my boy Jason, we went to this girl's party, and her little sister was 9 years old. She came in the room and we fucked the shit out of her.
Ah, crazy bastard.
I was saying, see if you can hear me.
No, because the volume in between the game and you is like even, so I'm having. I don't know how to. I mean, I can't adjust.
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. You can change. You can
I don't
go.
feel like fuck with it right now.
Well, no, it's a real quick. It's one button push. You hold down the PlayStation button, and then you'll be right away. You'll be on sounding devices.
It's a who?
Do you see when the quick menu comes up? If you just hold down the PS button, quick menu comes up, sounding devices, you hit over, go down to output the headphones, and change it to chat audio, and that's it. And only the chat will come through the headphones.
Here we go for the win.
So it's press down the PS button.
Yeah, I got it. I'm about to go outside and have a quick cigarette, brother. Give me like 5 minutes. I'll be back.
Right.
Yep.
Nikki Cross has her hooked up. Oh, yes! No, she escapes it.
Yeah, I don't know.
Nikki's got her.
Ouch.
Into a powerbomb. 1,
Brie Bella's on the attack now.
Oh, did she really just release the hold?
Oh, she did, Cole. And you know what that means? It means she probably has something even more devastating to finish her off with.
Face buster.
Not safe yet.
She can end it here.
Gonna take a whole lot more. Oh, dropped in the crossface.
The ST made T8. Ah, she gets out of it.
She has renewed life now, Michael.
Something big is coming. She's in.
This has been such a back and forth match. Rampage.
Wow, this could do it.
She's not done yet.
Good number.
You don't think that will end Brie's night here. This isn't good. I don't think Brie Bella knows where she is.
Will this be it? Masterful maneuver by Nikki Cross.
And no luck against Bianca Belair there. Wow. She may not be big, but Brie Bella's got the heart of a lioness.
Paige has all the confidence in the world, which is probably why she's so successful.
Down with the suplex.
Jawbreaker!
Call it, Dennis.
Oh, what a headbutt.
And again.
How many headbutts are we going to see?
And Bianca Belair with a quick kick out. Very nice. This is a tough spot to find herself in, that's for sure. She's in full control now.
Set up for the turbo. Now that is the kind of move that wins matches. Can that beat Sonya Deville?
Here's a cover. And there's the save. Let's keep fighting. And she's back in the ring now. Interesting move here. Taking the match to the outside. Straight punch.
Oh, flying forearm. That'll turn your lights out.
Nikki Bella with a nice reversal.
Reversal! What a counter!
And oh my God, what a forearm!
Right to the jaw.
That is a great reversal.
Oh yeah, here's Nikki Cross.
What's gonna happen now?
Spinebuster!
With a sit-out. Nasty.
There's the crucifix. Nicely done.
Oh, just scrubbing the face on the canvas.
Oh, Brie Bella able to...
A striking blow.
Forget it. She's counting sheep. Can the second time do it?
Here she goes.
Elbow smash! Paige with the excellent move to get out. She's in full control now.
Rampage!
Wow, what a move by Paige. Paige can draw the curtains on this fight.
Reverses. Can she take advantage? Crucifix head.
Abdominal strength. That could be it. Looks like a questionable decision on paper, but I'm sure she has something up her sleeve here, Cole.
Russian leg sweep.
Or a pump handle. Pump handle coming.
Now this could put you to sleep.
Is Bliss gonna tap? Is Bliss gonna tap out?
I think Bliss is stuck.
And she's able to break out of it.
The lesson to learn here, Cole, is that you can never count her out. Turn out the lights.
Ooh-wee.
That should do it right there.
Lucy!
This fucking fight's still going, son of a bitch. Makes a long fucking
Pendulum back.
match.
Stretch.
Well, it's a four-way tornado tag between a bunch of girls. So yeah, makes sense. Four-way.
Submission move.
Oh,
That's
Peta.
how you tear a muscle, guys. And Nikki Cross, hold on.
That's still my. If I'm having a bad day, that's still my fallback, dude. Watch some Family Guy, and it just makes everything okay for me. Just so goddamn.
I'm like that with The Office.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
She's slowing down here, guys.
That Peter Griffin.
So fucking funny.
Everybody tells me that. I guess I gotta fucking watch it.
Oh my god, dude, you gotta watch it. This is the shit that Michael does. Like when they do the gay witch hunt episode. Oh my god. Because they find out that Oscar is gay. In like season 2, I think, or season 3, they find out that Oscar's gay, and Michael doesn't. And Michael tells Dwight they have to find out who anyone else in the office is gay, because he doesn't want to offend anyone. And then Dwight goes, "Well, you could just not say anything offensive and just treat everyone equally." And then Michael goes, "Yeah, but then how am I going to know who's gay?" And so Dwight goes, and Jim had just transferred to the Stanford branch, and he's working because him and Pam, because Pam's getting married and he's in love with her, and she shot him down, so he transferred. So Dwight tells Michael, Jim told me about this device we could buy called Gator.
Here's another look.
And Michael goes, "I don't think that's a real thing, Dwight." And then he pauses and he goes, "But get a hold of Jim and get that website." And so he calls Jim, and he's like, Jim's like in Stanford, Connecticut, and they're in Pittsburgh. And they show Jim, and Jim's on the phone, and he goes, "Wait, what? Gator? Oh, yeah, Gator. Hold on, I'm looking it right up." And he starts acting like he's typing, and he's like, "Brookstone's all sold out." And then it shows Michael and Dwight, and they hang up, and they're like, "All right, thanks, Jim." And then Michael looks at Dwight and goes, "Try sharper image." And then Google sharper image. And then the next scene, at the end of the show, Dwight gets a package from Jim, and he opens it up, and it's a Gator machine. What? He built one and sent it to him. And so he's using it in the office, and it starts beeping near Oscar, and Oscar's the newly outed gay guy, and Dwight goes, "It works." And then he's holding it by his crotch, and it starts going off like even worse. And Dwight looks at himself and he goes, "Oh no."
Oh my god.
That's a great show, dude. One of my favorite episodes is Scott's Tots. So at the beginning of the episode, Michael is like all upset, and Stanley, the black guy that sounds like Cleveland from Family Guy, he goes, "Michael, what seems to be the problem?" And Michael goes, "I have to go back to that. I have to go back to the high school for Scott's Tots reunion." And Stanley starts laughing, and they show his interview, and he's like, "Has it been 10 years already?" And he shows this newspaper clipping, and it says, "Local paper salesman promises third graders college tuition." So now it's been 10 years, and he's got to go back to the high school, but he can't pay their tuition. So he comes into the school, and everyone's like, and this is why Michael's so likable. He remembered every single kid's first and last name. From 10 years earlier. That's how genuinely of a good guy they make him, even though he's so weird and cringy and says the worst things. He's genuinely just trying to be liked by everyone. And so what's so funny is when one girl walks up to him, he's like, "Hey, Letitia Boyd, hey." She's like, "Hey, Mr. Scott, I'm so glad you came back. This is going to be a great celebration. You don't believe how much you've touched my life." And Michael's just like, yeah. And then they get in the classroom, and they're like, "Mr. Scott, we wanted to present you with something. We don't have much. Even though you're giving us everything and making our dreams come true, we thought we'd put this together for you." And all the black kids start doing this dance number. And they're going, "Hey, Mr. Scott, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Make our dreams come true. Hey, Mr. Scott, what you gonna do? What you gonna do? Make our dreams come true." And they do this whole dance routine with a rap and everything. And then Michael's got to get up there, and he's like, "I'm sure you're all really hopeful for your tuition, but I want to talk about another tuition. Intuition. Intuition is when you can tell what someone's going to say before they say it."
Right.
And he's trying to like ease into telling them he can't pay for their tuition. It's like 30 kids. And so he's like, "Can you guess what I'm about to say next?" And nobody says anything, and Michael goes, "So you're just gonna make me say it?" And and the one kid goes, something about being the girl's sister. He's the sister of one of the girls that he's paying the tuition for. And the kid says, "Thank you for helping out my sister, Mr. Scott." You know, and he goes, "Yeah, I can't pay for your tuition too." And he's like, which brings me to what I'm about to say. I can't pay for anyone's tuition. And everyone in the classroom is like, "What the fuck? Yo, what? Huh? Yo, Mr. Scott, how could you do this to us?" He's like, "Now I know this isn't what you wanted to hear, but there is a great online courses program for people who want to get a degree, and it's a phenomenal program. It's great for everyone, and what you need for that program is a laptop. So what I brought all of you today are lithium batteries for that laptop." And he gives them all lithium batteries instead of tuition, and he alludes to like laptops when he says, "And I have lithium batteries for those laptops if you ever get them." And it's so funny. And then he's walking out of the school, and one of the kids goes, "Yeah, Mr. Scott, wait up." He goes, "Yo, I don't know how you can do this to us, man. Like, you crushed a lot of dreams." And Michael's like, "Yeah, I know. You know, I thought I really wanted to be generous and help these kids out." And he's like, "I thought by 30 I would be a millionaire, and then, you know, then it didn't happen. And then I thought, well, by the time I'm 40, I'll definitely be a millionaire. And then that didn't happen. And then, like, I just, you know, that's how life is sometimes." He's like, "Yeah, but Mr. Scott, man, you just have to pay our tuition." He goes, "Well, listen, Lionel," he goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "Your books, right?" He goes, "Yo, Mr. Scott, those are super expensive." "Yeah, well, it's the least I can do." He goes, "I'll tell you what." He goes, "How much are your books? I'll take care of your book." He goes, they're about $1,000. He's like, "That's not legal." He's like, "About $200 a year?" He's like, all right. He's like, "No, it's $1,000 per year." Michael's like, "Oh." He's like, "Fine. This is what I'll do for you, Lionel. I'm gonna fill out 4 checks for $1,000 and date them a year apart, and you use these for your books." He's like, "But make sure you call me before you cash them because I gotta move some monies around." But it's such a funny, cringy episode because all these kids are supposed to be getting college tuition promised by Michael, and he promises 30 kids college tuition.
Jesus.
Like, it was so funny. There was a newspaper article and everything about reporters were there. I love the one where they're about, like, they find out from the financial news online ticker that Dunder Mifflin is going out of business. That Dunder Mifflin is basically losing money and they're going bankrupt. And what happens is Michael gets invited to a conference to talk about Dunder Mifflin and their financial situation at this venue, at this hotel banquet hall in Manhattan. So he brings Dwight, Andy, and Gay Oscar. Now, Andy is Ed Helms from The Hangover movie.
Okay.
And then you know who Dwight is. I'm sure you've seen him. Yeah. And then Oscar is the gay Mexican guy that works at the... But he doesn't have an accent or... He's not even gay in real life. He's just a normal guy, but he comes out as gay on the show. And he just happens to look Mexican. So what's funny is they're sitting there, and they're at the auditorium, and they have people lined up to give questions. And Andy turns to Oscar and goes, "Oscar,
I don't know. It's going to be
why don't you say something? You have good questions to figure out what's going on here." Goes, and Oscar goes, "I don't know." And Andy goes, "Don't you want to be able to tell your grandkids that you stood up for something?" He says that to gay Oscar, and then you just see Dwight jump in the frame, and he just goes, "Excuse me, how is he going to have grandchildren?"
Incredible elevation from the big man.
He's gay. And this is so funny. He went from being so serious to him going, "Wait, how is he going to have grandkids?"
There's the save.
Oh, man.
They do some of the most fucked up things. There's like one where Michael's talking about
Tag made.
something
About to happen to their opponent.
It was self-awareness or something like that, or stress relief. Stress relief is what it was.
Is this it?
Is in every episode. So what happens is he gathers everyone in the conference room, and he starts talking about how your attitude and your choices. And he's like, "Oscar here chooses to be a gay man, but I'm not going to make fun of him or ridicule him for something that he chose to be.
Matt Hardy is in trouble and hurt right now.
But people who are gay, people of the gay community and all that say that it's not a fit.
In this matchup here. Wow.
And so by Michael saying that you know Oscar made a choice makes it even funnier because it's so fucking it's not politically correct at all for Oscar. There was the one where they did Diversity Day. They played this game where you took they wrote an ethnicity on the card and you stuck it to your forehead without knowing what it was. And the person in front of you has to give you clues for you to guess what ethnicity you have on your forehead.
That's fucking great.
Oh my god, it was so fun. And the guy, and so, but when it started off, they were having Diversity Day because Michael told a Chris Rock joke on a sales call. And it was the Chris Rock joke was the difference between the good black people and the bad black people. But he did it trying to mimic Chris Rock's voice.
Really?
And it's so fucking horribly funny. It's so cringy. Because he's like, there's 2 types of black people. And he's saying it like Chris Rock would. So that's why they're having Diversity Day. But Michael's being deflective about it. And it's anonymous. That's why they're having the whole office go through Diversity Day. No one knows that Michael did that except for Michael. Yeah. But Michael blurts it out. Michael ends up, and then the guy giving the
Hardy sees the opening.
The guy giving the seminar, the Diversity Day seminar. He goes, Michael, you can call me Mr. Brown. And Michael goes, yeah, nope, that's a trap. That's a trick. I'm not going to call you that. and he's black, and the guy's black, and he's like, no, Michael, that's my name. You call me Mr. Brown. He's like, no, still, I think it's a trick. It's a test. And so what's funny is he's telling them all this shit, and he's telling them, you know, they're giving the whole diversity thing. And he says,
Jeff Hardy needs to find a way out.
You know, okay, so he goes, so they put the cards in her head, and Dwight's got the one card, and Cam's got a stripe to him, and it says agent on his head. And she's like, I'm not going to do this, I'm not. And then Cam goes, okay, if I must say this, and this is not how I feel, this is just would stereotypically, but someone might say that you're not a good driver. And Dwight goes, oh man, am I a woman? And
nice.
One girl, Haley, you've seen 40-Year-Old Virgin. Remember the one
Absolutely.
girl that falls by the truck? And they run into each other at the speed dating. And it's like, this is so awesome. She's like, you're disgusting. You keep stalking me, blah, blah, blah. And then, so Mindy Kaling is the girlfriend.
Yeah.
And she's looking at Michael, and she goes, Michael goes, look, I'll try it with Kelly. And he's like,
he needs to change something fast, guys.
Starts doing like this Indian. And
has his opponent up. This is about to be over because here comes.
You want to run Ghost Recon in here?
I'm still watching this thing.
Big E showing some agility. All right, that was impressive.
I was waiting for the thing to upload. Update.
Yeah.
Jeff Hardy came up big in that exchange. Tough spot to be in. In off the tag.
Damn.
Definitely one of the funniest shows of all time. And I was skeptical of getting into it first.
There he goes.
It took the quarantine to get me into it.
Yeah. You know, I'll say one thing, because you and I both know that physically it's not fake. It's just, I know they got plots they got to follow. But anyone who thinks wrestling is fake, I want to see them get into a goddamn ring, jump off the top rope, land on someone, and see how that feels. I mean, just, you know what I mean?
That's all I say. It's scripted and choreographed.
Yeah, but physically it's real. They're beating the shit out of each other.
Like, there's still a high level of injury. High percentage of injury.
You know, not many people can do that kind of stuff sustained. Not many, not professional level.
going for the pin.
Run to Madden.
I don't know how he keeps kicking out.
Man, even
right.
now, when he's on his last legs, Big E has the
I
strength
feel like
to
Jesse Pinkman right now. Pinkman.
just like he envisioned.
But now, can Matt Hardy capitalize on this? Never say
Jesse
that attitude
Pinkman.
out of him.
Not a whole lot of luster behind that kick out.
It's funny, fucking, in season 3, no, 2, when they're out there in the fucking desert, and, you know, fucking run out of gas and shit, and at the end they're stressing out, like, what the fuck are we gonna do? And Jesse's like, dude, make this, he's like, make a robot.
And then we turn it into a doom buggy.
Yeah. And then Walter's like,
Put something, into like a doom buggy or something, and just right at it.
and then they start to make shit. Walter's like, get this. Jesse's like, what are we doing? You just said it. We're making a robot?
For the second time, he's seen it.
Love it, man.
That's gotta be
He was showing them how to conduct it. He's like, so, what's the main conductor? And he was like, oh, the wire. He's like, no, it's the copper. Oh, my God, dude.
Xavier Woods looking like he
And
Here we go.
even after watching now for the 5th time, like I said, I haven't started season 4 yet, but so the first 3 seasons, 5th time in a row, I'm catching little things. You know how they're just sitting there conversating? I'm catching little things that are subtle. You know, season 3, Walt and Skylar have, you know, try to get a divorce, or she tries to divorce him. And there's one scene where they're at his new apartment talking. And, she knows about the meth industry, and she makes a comment. And then Walter goes, well, as of right now, he's not my stepbrother. And Skylar's like, what? He's like, well, right now, because you're trying to divorce me pretty much, he's not my stepbrother. And then it's like 2 episodes after that is when the assassins try to kill Hank, remember? And then yada, yada, yada. But, yeah. So.
Is that the one where it says, when she says something about the danger coming knocking?
No, not yet. That's going to come in season 4, and I'm not going to start that yet. Yeah, but another thing is, and I hate to say because it's so goddamn emotional, when he loses homegirl, what's her face, Jane. I mean, just watching that, man, I can relate in a sense.
When he puts his hand to his mouth. Like in fear, like when Walt puts his hand to his mouth, and he's about to help her, and then he stops and puts his hand to his mouth, like. What you could infer from that scene is you got to remember Walt just had a daughter.
Yeah. Yep, you're right. Yep. And you could tear it because he teared up when it happened. Remember? Yep. He's like, damn, that's pretty deep right there.
He's gonna want to get out of this.
And then to find out that the guy that he was talking to at the bar is the girl's father, and then he's also an air traffic controller that causes the whole plane crash that you see at the guys in the hazmat suits at the beginning of the series.
Yeah.
And you see the pink bear floating in the pool. Like, have you ever seen the YouTube video how they go? It's like a half hour to 45-minute long video, but it's so informing about Breaking Bad. It basically goes. The video is about Breaking Bad and the use of the color spectrum with characters on the show.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting because it breaks it down from the color spectrum, and it shows every character like what color they wore for their
the wardrobes and shit like that.
Wardrobe, right?
Yeah,
the wardrobe for each episode, how the color spectrum changed as their character changed. So like Jesse starts off in like very innocent colors and very like youthful, and then he starts to get more. And blue was always the color of like purity, of like innocence, of purity.
Yeah.
And pink is the color of innocence. That's why Jesse, they named him Jesse Pink. And so, like, whenever you see Walt's daughter, she's always wearing pink.
Right.
In the episode where the two planes crash into each other, Walt's sitting out on his pool wearing a pink sweater vest.
Who's next? Yeah.
Or he's wearing a pink, like, V-neck sweater.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, and then there's certain episodes where, like, Walt wears a lot of green, which is, like, greed and money.
Like, why the fuck is he wearing that?
Like, when Gus puts on the jumpsuit before he slices the dude's throat.
That's
It's
beautiful.
Like
That's
a red
beautiful.
Jumpsuit.
Before that, though, let me cut you off for 1 second. The way he calmly takes his fucking suit off, folds it neatly,
meticulous.
and fucking hangs it up, and then he does what he does. That's gangster. That's gangster, my
Because it
man.
was so like you didn't know what he was gonna do, and then that guy definitely didn't think he was gonna die.
No, he did not. No. Hector thought he was going to live.
And then he just fucking slices his throat.
And you see Mike, even Aaron Trout's face was like, dude, what the fuck? And once again, I mean, like, Gustavo's face expression is pretty much like ice.
Nothing. He doesn't feel anything.
That right there is a man you don't want to come across. He has nothing to lose. Very
How about
dangerous.
when Jesse kills, what's his name?
Oh yeah, fucking, my man fucking, yeah, you're talking about
Superstar
Gil Pettigrew.
starts your matches off
Gil
second gear. You hear so much about.
Oh yeah, it was good. Was it Bedecker? I thought Bedecker was the guy that Skyler was having an affair with.
No, that was that's what's his face? That's the blonde dude. God damn it. Hold on.
Remember the guy that was embezzling money in his own company?
Yeah. That's Beneke. That's Beneke.
Beneke, okay.
Yeah.
Beneke.
Beneke. I remember that because the way she said it. She's like, oh yeah, Ted Beneke.
Well, I remember rewatching the series on Netflix, and I went back to that season, and I was like, wait, what episode is IFT? I was like, what does IFT mean?
She's taking her to the floor.
And I was like, what episode is this? IFT. So I watched the whole episode, right? And it was the episode where Walt was living in that apartment.
Yep.
And Skyler just finds out about the whole meth trade and him cooking. And then he basically is like low-key blackmailing her without coming out and saying it.
Yeah.
And says, I want to move back into the house. And so he's there. And she goes to work and she hooks up with Ted, and then she comes home and Walt's washing dishes. He goes, so have you given more thought about me moving back in here and all, and we can talk more about it? And she just looks at him and goes, I fucked up.
Yes, yeah.
And that was the IFT. I thought that was why it was called IFT.
That's also gangster. I mean, bro, really? Out of bam. Skyler, man, I'm telling you. By the way.
Oh, when her color, like she has one of the biggest drastic color changes. And when you watch that video on YouTube, because she goes from being the innocent, concerned wife. Her husband just found out he had cancer, and then she turns into this like somber, like very depressed, almost suicidal.
Yeah.
And then she turns evil, and then she turns it all around and starts becoming part of the business.
That's right.
So her color changes. I can't remember what the color schemes were, but and what's her name used to always. And then one character's color scheme that never changed was Hank's wife.
Michael, that gives new meaning to
Kyler's sister. Her color scheme was always purple. She wears purple in every episode.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you're right.
Hank is always wearing like an orange, like a light orange, or like very like not really like bright colors. But to show that Hank is kind of like the hero of the story. Hank is even though he's the guy that's very he's very vulgar and very masculine. He's very chauvinistic and everything. But Hank is the moral compass of the show.
Well, I was just
Hank
gonna say,
the guy that's always gonna do the right thing.
I've known a lot of people to watch that show, and it took Hank a while to grow on them. In other words, they're like, dude, I love the show, but I can't stand Hank. I'm like, just keep watching. He grows on you. So.
But that was the thing with Hank, was like his color scheme was always that, because he was as crazy as it seems, because that's what's clever about the writing. You take a guy who's very chauvinistic and very crude, but underneath all that, he's a family guy. He loves his family, he'll protect his family. And he's the moral compass of the show, because he never wavers from following the path of justice.
That's right.
Because his wife, what is she? She's a kleptomaniac.
It's gonna hurt. Tear your hamstring.
Him and Steve Gomez.
She's a kleptomaniac. Hank's wife.
Yeah, I remember that.
She's not anything. But Hank's not pure. That's why he's not wearing the blue. But he is the moral compass of justice in the show. He's always going to do right by his family and by the law. And what's crazy is everyone else on the show kind of teeters on good and evil. Hank never wavers from being good, even though he's the most obnoxious character.
I thought it was funny every time. My buddy I get my weed from couldn't stand him. Like the first, I was like, dude, he grows on you. He finally, was like, yeah, he's okay.
Yes, man, he's funny.
Yeah.
He played the cool uncle role perfect.
Yeah.